The bourbon costs more than Ally's rent. She knows this because Mr. Pemberton, silver-haired, Rolex heavy, orders it every Thursday at 7:47 p.m., tips exactly 12%, and never once looks at her face. Just her hands, the ones that might accidentally tip over his Pappy Van Winkle 23. Ally tightens her grip on the tray and steps deeper into the Corinthian Club's inner sanctum, where leather breathes money and silence costs extra. Her uniform black, starched, anonymous, might as well be an invisibility cloak. She weaves between wingback chairs occupied by men who move markets with phone calls, women who wear art on their wrists, people who've forgotten what it's like to check a bank balance before buying dinner. Nobody sees her. Not really. Mrs. Hartwell's champagne flute needs refreshing. Ally approaches, practiced smile in place, but the woman doesn't pause her conversation about the unbearable wait time at her Santorini villa rental. The words flow around Ally like she's furniture. Beautiful, breakable furniture. "Excuse me," Ally begins. Mrs. Hartwell extends her glass, without turning, without acknowledgement, the gesture as natural as breathing. Ally takes it, refills it, returns it to a hand that never trembles with uncertainty about next month's electricity bill. The younger crowd clusters near the fireplace, hedge fund analysts still eager enough to assert themselves above the murmur. One of them, James or Jason, or another J name she served 100 times, laughs too loud at his own joke about the help getting his order wrong at some restaurant in Soho. His friends chuckle. Ally's smile doesn't crack, though something behind her sternum does, just slightly. She's perfected this, the art of being present but unseen, helpful but unheard, necessary but never noticed. 5 years in service have taught her that people reveal themselves most honestly when they think no one's watching, and she's always watching, even if they never are. Mr. Chen waves her over with 2 fingers, eyes glued to his tablet where numbers dance their crucial dance. She knows his order. Macallan. Neat. 2 inches exactly. She pours with precision learned from corrections, from size, from that one time someone sent her back because the ice wasn't spherical enough. "Thank you," he says to his screen. Ally nods to no one. The lounge hums with the particular frequency of wealth, not the showy nouveau riche kind, but the old, quiet type that doesn't need to announce itself. Crystal whispers against mahogany. Imported cigars smolder in ashtrays worth more than her car. Someone mentions a disappointing 7-figure bonus, and Ally thinks of her daughter's field trip permission slip, still unsigned because the $40 fee might mean choosing between that and the dentist. She refills water glasses no one asked for, anticipates needs before they're spoken, exists in the margins of other people's ease. Her feet ache in shoes she can't afford to replace yet. Her back holds tension like a locked safe. But here's what they don't see. Ally notices everything. The affairs conducted in whispered phone calls. The business deals sketched on napkins. The loneliness in expensive watches checked too frequently. The children's names forgotten until reminded by assistants. The pills taken discreetly from platinum pill boxes. She moves through their world, collecting secrets like coins in her apron, understanding with perfect clarity that she is both essential and erased. The bourbon costs more than Ally's rent, but the view from invisibility, priceless. The first cut comes wrapped in laughter. "God, did you see her nails?" Madeline Shaw's voice carries like crystal shattering, deliberate, sharp, meant to be heard. She doesn't bother lowering it. Why would she? People like Ally don't matter enough for discretion. Ally's hand trembles imperceptibly as she sets down the old-fashioned. Her nails are short, practical, unpolished, clean. The kind that scrub dishes at midnight and help with homework by morning. She withdraws her fingers slowly, professionally, even as heat crawls up her neck. Evan Keller leans back in his chair, all Cambridge education and inherited real estate, studying Ally like she's a specimen under glass. Fascinating, isn't it? How they just hover. Like moths near flames they'll never be warm enough to touch. The table erupts in polite, poisonous amusement. Ally's training kicks in. Smile, nod, become smaller. But something darker pulses beneath her composure. A tide held back by sheer force of will. She's weathered worse. Survived worse. These people, with their casual cruelty and designer indifference, don't know the first thing about actual survival. Another round? Her voice is steady, professional, empty of everything she's feeling. Oh, she speaks. Madeline's eyebrows arch with theatrical surprise. I honestly wasn't sure. You're so mousy. Do they train that into you? Or is it natural? Evan signals for whiskey without acknowledging Ally's question, his gesture dismissive as swatting away smoke. The quiet ones are always calculating something, probably wondering which of us she can spill a drink on for the biggest settlement. More laughter. Colder now. Ally moves to the bar, her spine straight despite the weight pressing down. Every eye in their circle tracks her, not with interest, but with the idle attention given to entertainment. A show they didn't pay for but will enjoy nonetheless. The bartender, Marcus, catches her expression. He's been here longer than anyone, seen everything twice. Don't let them. I'm fine. The words taste like copper. She isn't fine. The humiliation burrows deep, finding old wounds, familiar scars. This is what they do. People with power and no accountability. They diminish because they can. Because in their world, consequence is something that happens to other people. Her phone vibrates in her pocket. Once, twice. She knows better than to check it on the floor, but the pattern is specific. 2 short pulses mean one thing. I'm aware. Junho, her confidant and ally. The thought of him steadies her like a hand on her shoulder. Somewhere beyond these walls, beyond this performance of subservience, there exists a man who sees her completely, who knows exactly where she is, exactly what she's enduring, and is allowing her the dignity of handling it herself. For now, back at the table, Madeline has moved on to critiquing Ally's posture. It's the shoulders, I think, so tense, like she's perpetually bracing for impact. Poverty will do that, Evan offers with mock sympathy. Constant survival mode. Rather tragic, actually. End. Ally sets down their drinks with mathematical precision. Not a drop spilled, not a tremor visible. Her face remains a masterpiece of neutrality, even as something molten and furious coils in her chest. Will there be anything else? She asks. Madeline waves her away like smoke. No. You've been adequate. Adequate. The word lands like a slap disguised as a pat. Ally turns, movements fluid and controlled, and returns to her station by the far wall. Her reflection stares back from the gilded mirror, a woman in a uniform, forgettable and forgotten, exactly as designed. But in her pocket, her phone sits warm against her thigh. 2 pulses. I know. She wonders if they can feel it yet, the shift in atmospheric pressure that precedes a storm, the way the air changes right before everything breaks. They can't. They're still laughing. The lounge air thickens with unspoken hierarchies. Ally refills water glasses in silence, each pour a meditation in restraint. Around her, privilege performs its nightly ritual deals, brokered over cigars, affairs scheduled between courses, inheritances discussed like weather. The weight of their world presses down, heavy as architecture, solid as the marble floors beneath her aching feet. Her phone vibrates again. Different pattern this time. 3 short, 1 long. Junho's messages are never accidents. Each vibration is deliberate communication, a tether connecting her to a reality these people cannot fathom. While they see a waitress navigating their contempt with forced grace, he sees Ally, the woman who walked into his world unafraid, who looked at his reputation and saw the man beneath. She thinks about that first meeting, how she'd served him coffee at a different establishment, unaware of who he was, how he'd been surprised when she didn't flinch at his presence. didn't perform the usual theater of intimidation. How he'd returned the next day and the next, until conversations replaced silence and something impossible began to grow. "Miss?" Mr. Pemberton's voice cuts through her reverie. "The pappy. Now. Ha. Ha." She moves automatically, pouring the bourbon that costs more than her rent into crystal that probably costs more than her car. Her hands don't shake. They never shake anymore, no matter how deep the cuts land. Madeline's group has attracted more admirers: Connor Ashford, tech money, trying to buy old money respect, and Vivian Cross, whose family name opens doors that existed before this country did. They orbit Evan and Madeline like planets around twin suns, drawn to the gravitational pull of casual cruelty. So I said to the decorator, Vivienne announces, if I wanted minimalism, I'd live in a storage unit. Give me Baroque or give me nothing. The group titters appreciatively. Connor spots Ally approaching with their next round. Speaking of storage units, think our server here lives in one? Would explain the perpetual exhaustion. The comment detonates softly. Laughter, it's shrapnel. Ally's jaw tightens fractionally before smoothing back into professional neutrality. She distributes drinks with the precision of a dealer at a high-stakes table, each placement exact, each movement economical. You know what I find interesting? Evan swirls his whiskey, eyes on Ally like she's a puzzle that bores him. The ones who work in places like this, serving people like us, do they go home and pretend they belong here? Try on our lives like borrowed clothes? God, that's dark, Ev. Madeline's laugh is champagne and broken glass, and probably accurate. Her phone, one long vibration. Breathe. She does, deep and slow, pulling oxygen into lungs that feel tight as fists. Junho knows her patterns, her triggers, the precise moments when her composure threatens to fracture. He's probably watching the lounge's exterior security feeds right now, tracking time, calculating distance. The duality of her existence feels suddenly sharp, powerless, publicly, yet secretly backed by a man whose name alone makes dangerous people cautious. She could end this performance with a single text, unleash the storm waiting just beyond these walls. But that would prove nothing except that she needed rescue. And Ally Monroe doesn't need rescue. She needs these people to underestimate her just a little longer. Will there be anything else? She asks, voice level as lake water. Yes, actually. Evan leans forward, malice dressed as curiosity. Tell me, what does it feel like, being furniture that breathes? The question hangs there, ugly and waiting. Ally meets his gaze for exactly 3 seconds, long enough to let him see something flicker in her eyes, short enough to maintain professional boundaries. I wouldn't know, sir, she says quietly. Perhaps you should ask your wife. The silence that follows tastes like victory and imminent consequence. Understood. I will start from chapter 4 and give the full, corrected transcript exactly as written, without reducing words. Here is the continuation. The air fractures. Evan's face cycles through emotions too quickly to name shock, fury, something darker that might be respect. The table goes silent. Every socialite suddenly fascinated by their drinks. Even Madeline's perpetual smirk falters. Ally doesn't move, doesn't retreat. The words hang between them like a gauntlet thrown, and she refuses to flinch from what she's done. Excuse me? Evan's voice drops to something dangerous and quiet. I apologize. The words are correct, but her tone isn't sorry. That was unprofessional. Unprofessional? He stands slowly, using his height as weapon, as threat. You just insulted me in my own club. Your club? Ally tilts her head fractionally. I was under the impression this was a membership establishment, unless you've purchased the Corinthian recently? Madeline gasps an actual delighted intake of breath. Oh, this is better than theater. Connor looks between them like he's watching a car accident in slow motion. Vivienne has her phone out, probably texting the drama to a dozen group chats. The audience expands as other patrons notice the confrontation, drawn by the scent of blood in the water. Evan steps closer, too close, violating the invisible boundary between server and served, erasing the professional distance that protects them both. "You're going to regret that," he says softly. "I'll have you fired before you finish your shift. I'll make sure you never work in this city again." Ally should retreat now, apologize properly, debase herself enough to keep her job, her income, the fragile stability she's built for her daughter. Every survival instinct screams at her to back down, but something else burns hotter than fear. "I understand, sir." She maintains eye contact, refuses to give him the satisfaction of watching her crumble. "Should I fetch the manager now? Or would you prefer to finish your whiskey first?" His hand moves not to strike, but to grab her wrist. The contact is shocking, inappropriate, a boundary crossed that can't be uncrossed. Marcus appears instantly at her side. "Sir, I'll have to ask you to—" "You'll ask me nothing." Evan doesn't release her. This woman needs to learn her place. "I know my place." Ally's voice is steady, despite the adrenaline screaming through her veins. "Do you know yours?" The question lands like a blade between ribs. Evan's grip tightens enough to hurt, enough to leave marks. Ally catalogs the pain clinically, adding it to the list of indignities she'll remember when this is over. Her phone vibrates insistently against her hip. Junho knows, has probably seen everything through whatever network he's tapped into. She wonders if Evan can feel it yet, the shift in the room's energy, the way shadows seem to deepen in corners, the sense of something enormous approaching just beyond perception. He can't. "I think," Madeline interjects with cruel amusement, "our little server has delusions of grandeur. How absolutely precious." Not delusions. Vivienne studies Ally with new interest, the kind a cat shows a mouse that fought back. Just extremely poor judgment. Connor raises his phone, filming now. This is going to be legendary. The audience watches, waiting for Ally's inevitable collapse. They've seen this play before service worker oversteps, gets destroyed, order restored. It's the natural hierarchy asserting itself, entertainment and education combined. Ally feels the familiar weight of expectation pressing down. They want her broken, humbled, returned to her proper place in their world order. She thinks of her daughter, waiting at home, of the bills that won't care about pride or dignity, of all the practical reasons she should apologize, submit, survive. Then she thinks of Junho's last message. "Stay calm, I know." "Sir," she says quietly, "you're hurting me." "Am I?" Evan's smile is cruel. "Good. Maybe pain will teach you what civility couldn't. Perhaps Ally doesn't try to pull away. Or perhaps it will teach you something instead." "And what lesson could you possibly teach me?" Her phone vibrates once more. Long, sustained, unmistakable. "Now, that underestimation," Ally says softly, "is the most expensive mistake people like you make." The lounge's front door opens. The temperature drops. Junho Park enters like gravity shifting. He doesn't announce himself. Doesn't need to. Power moves differently when it's absolute quieter, colder, inevitable as winter. He's dressed in a charcoal suit that costs more than Evan's car, tailored to perfection, but somehow making elegance look dangerous. The lounge doesn't go silent immediately. That would require people noticing. Instead, conversation dies in ripples, spreading outward from the entrance like blood in water. One table stops talking. Then another. The domino effect of recognition traveling through a room that suddenly understands. Something has changed. Evan still has Ally's wrist. Junho's eyes find them across the crowded space, and Ally watches his expression undergo a transformation so subtle that anyone not studying him would miss it. The slight tightening around his mouth. The way his hands, previously relaxed at his sides, curl into something that isn't quite fists, but promises violence nonetheless. He moves through the lounge like a blade through silk, smooth, inevitable, leaving severed connections in his wake. People shift unconsciously to create his path, bodies responding to instincts older than civilization. Predator, apex, threat. Pood. Oh God, Vivian whispers, phone lowering slowly. That's Junho Park. Connor's voice has lost all its earlier amusement. What the fuck is he doing here? Madeline's face drains of color. Evan, let her go. What? Why would I? Let her go. Madeline grabs his arm, nails digging in with desperate urgency. Right now. But it's too late for wisdom. Junho reaches their table, and the temperature drops another 10 degrees. Up close, he's somehow more and less than his reputation, younger than expected, beautiful in a way that makes danger attractive, utterly still in the manner of predators conserving energy before the strike. Good evening. His voice is soul and shadows, accented English that makes every word sound like a decision. I hope I'm not interrupting. Ally feels Evan's grip slacken but not release. Fear has frozen him mid-gesture, caught between pride and survival instinct. Mr. Park, Marcus appears, professional terror barely concealed. We weren't expecting. No. Junho's gaze hasn't left Evan's hand on Ally's wrist. I can see that. Please, don't let me disturb your evening. I'm simply here to collect something that belongs to me. The words fall like executioner's weights. Evan releases Ally so quickly she almost stumbles. I didn't. We were just having a conversation. Junho steps closer, close enough that Evan has to crane his neck to maintain eye contact. Strange. From where I was standing, it looked like assault. It was a misunderstanding. Was it? Junho's smile is winter frost on window glass. Please, explain the misunderstanding to me. I'm deeply interested in your perspective. The lounge has achieved perfect silence now. Every patron, every server, every breathing thing in the space has become audience to something they don't fully understand, but recognize as dangerous. Ally stands frozen between them, her wrist throbbing where Evan grabbed her. She wants to speak, to diffuse this before it escalates, but Junho's presence has created a vacuum where only he determines what happens next. Sir, I apologize if... Not to me. Junho's interruption is soft as silk, sharp as razors. Apologize to her, the woman you put your hands on, the woman you humiliated for your entertainment. Evan's face cycles through expressions: rage, calculation, fear. His friends have abandoned him to silence, stepping back like he's contagious. Even Madeline has created distance, her earlier cruelty replaced by the universal human response to witnessing someone else's execution. I'm sorry, Evan manages, directing the words vaguely in Ally's direction. Look at her when you apologize. Junho's voice hasn't risen, hasn't hardened, yet somehow carries more authority than shouting ever could. Say her name. I don't. Althea Monroe. Junho provides it like he's offering evidence, though she prefers Ally. She's worked here for 3 years. She has a daughter in elementary school. She drives a 2012 Honda Civic with a cracked windshield she can't afford to replace. Her favorite color is green, though she rarely wears it because it shows stains. She takes this job seriously because it feeds her family. Each detail lands like a revelation, painting Ally in dimensions these people never bothered to see. Now, Junho continues, apologize to Ally properly or we'll discuss alternative resolutions. The threat is unmistakable. Evan swallows hard. Ally, I'm sorry. I was out of line. Thank you. Her voice emerges smaller than she'd like, but steady. Apology accepted. Junho's hand extends toward her, palm up, an invitation rather than demand. Shall we? Continuing from chapter 6. Fully corrected and without reducing any words, Ally's hand finds Junho's and the world realigns. His fingers close around hers, warm, steady, possessive in a way that erases Evan's earlier grip like it never existed. The contrast is everything. Violence versus protection, degradation versus elevation, strangers versus intimacy. But Junho doesn't move toward the exit yet. Instead, he turns back to Evan's table with the slow deliberation of someone savoring a moment they've anticipated. His thumb traces absent patterns on Allie's knuckles, grounding her while he executes something she's beginning to recognize as theater. Evan Keller. Junho says the name like he's reading from a file. Harvard Business, class of 2019. Currently managing your father's third-tier real estate portfolio while he manages the actual empire. Engagement to Senator Morrison's daughter pending, assuming she doesn't discover your arrangement with the paralegal on the 14th floor. Evan goes gray. Connor Ashford. Junho's gaze shifts. Cryptocurrency windfall 2 years ago. Currently being investigated by the SEC for pump and dump schemes. Your lawyers are excellent, but federal patience has limits. Connor's phone slips from nerveless fingers. Vivienne Cross. The name comes softer, almost gentle. Old money, new debts. Your family's pharmaceutical company is one bad quarter from hostile takeover. The creditors are circling, but you're here, drinking $1,000 champagne. Admirable commitment to appearances. Vivian's face crumples. And Madeline Shaw. Junho's smile could cut glass. Where to begin? The married congressman? The embezzlement from your own charity? The prescription drug problem you're hiding behind Hermes and highlights? Madeline actually whimpers. The lounge watches in horrified fascination as Junho systematically dismantles their social hierarchy with nothing but information and tone. He doesn't raise his voice, doesn't threaten explicitly, doesn't need to. The message is clear. I see you, all of you. And seeing is power. Now, Junho continues conversationally. I want to be very clear about something. The woman whose wrist you grabbed? The one you mocked for her nails, her posture, her perceived poverty? She is under my protection. Absolute, unwavering, permanent protection. He lets the words settle like sediment. This means that her dignity is my concern. Her safety is my priority. Her peace of mind is something I take personally. Do you understand what I'm saying? Evan manages a nod. I need to hear you say it. I understand. Evan's voice cracks. We understand. Good. Junho's expression doesn't soften, but something shifts satisfaction, perhaps, or the particular pleasure of a lesson delivered perfectly. Then let me be explicit about the consequences of forgetting this understanding. He pauses, letting tension build. I won't destroy you financially. That's too abstract, too removed from the actual offense. Instead, I'll ensure that every humiliation you inflicted on Ally becomes public knowledge. Every crude comment, every dismissive gesture, every moment of casual cruelty, documented, distributed, immortalized. Connor makes a sound like a strangled animal. Your reputations, carefully curated over years, will be reduced to a single story. The night you bullied a waitress and learned that power has hierarchies you didn't know existed. Every Google search of your names will return this. Every job interview, every date, every introduction at every party for the rest of your lives. The threat is specific, personal, perfectly calibrated to hurt people who value image above all else. Or, Junho offers with terrible kindness, you could simply remember this lesson. Treat service workers with basic human decency. Understand that you know nothing about the people who serve you. Recognize that the woman pouring your whiskey might be loved by someone who could erase you from relevance with a single phone call. Silence. Which option appeals to you? The lesson. Madeline's voice is barely audible. We'll remember the lesson. Excellent choice. Junho's smile is all teeth and no warmth. I'm glad we could have this conversation. Allie? She realizes he's waiting for her permission to leave, not pulling her away, not making decisions for her, but offering her agency in the moment of her vindication. I'm ready, she says. They move toward the exit together, Junho's hand at the small of her back, protective and claiming. Behind them, the socialites remain frozen in their seats, Expensive drinks forgotten, expensive clothes suddenly feeling like costumes that fooled no one who mattered. The lounge door opens, cold night air rushes in. The night swallows them whole. Outside the Corinthian, the city breathes differently, louder, more honest, less concerned with performance. Car horns and distant sirens replace crystal and whispered cruelty. Ally's heels click against pavement that doesn't judge her worth by her footwear, and she feels herself expanding into the space, like lungs finally allowed to fill. Junho's car waits at the curb, black and sleek and utterly unremarkable, except for the driver who stands at attention with military precision. He opens the door without a word, and Junho guides Ally inside with a hand that hasn't left hers since they walked out. The interior smells like leather, and his cologne something expensive and understated that she's come to associate with safety. The door closes. The world outside becomes theater, viewed through tinted glass. Are you hurt? Junho's fingers find her wrist, examining the red marks Evan left with a gentleness that contradicts everything he just displayed inside. No. Then, more honestly, not really. His thumb traces the bruise forming on her skin, and she watches his jaw tighten. I should have come sooner. You came exactly when I needed you to. Ally places her other hand over his, stilling the movement. If you'd arrived earlier, I wouldn't have had the chance to handle it myself first. You told him to ask his wife. Junho's laugh is surprised and dark. Where did that come from? Somewhere deep and probably unwise. She leans back against the seat, exhaustion finally permitted to surface. I'm going to get fired. No, you're not. Junho, the Corinthians' owner, is Park Enterprises' subsidiary company. I approved the membership bylaws. He says it casually, like revealing he owns the building, the block, possibly the entire neighborhood. You're not fired. If anything, you're getting a raise. The information should shock her. Instead, it settles like another piece of a puzzle she's been assembling since the day they met. Junho doesn't move through the world randomly. Every appearance, every action, every moment of seeming coincidence is calculated with precision that makes her dizzy. You've been watching. It's not a question. Always. No apology in his voice. You think I'd let you work in a place like that without ensuring your safety? Safety from what? Rich people with bad manners? From exactly what happened tonight. His hand cups her face, turning her to meet his eyes. People who see you as less than, who think cruelty is entertainment, who would hurt you because they can. Ally sees herself reflected in his gaze, not the exhausted waitress in a stained uniform, but someone valuable, someone worth protecting. The dissonance between how the world sees her and how he sees her creates a gap wide enough to fall through. I don't need rescuing, she says, but her voice lacks conviction. I know. Junho's smile is soft now, private, meant only for her. You proved that tonight. But needing rescue and deserving protection aren't the same thing. You can be strong and still allow yourself to be cherished. The words hit somewhere deep, finding wounds she's kept carefully bandaged. Single motherhood has taught her self-sufficiency as survival mechanism, turned asking for help into weakness, made vulnerability feel like failure. But here, in this moment, Junho is offering something different, not rescue, but partnership. Not pity, but recognition. What happens now? She asks. Now? He settles back, arm around her shoulders, pulling her against his side. Now, we go home. You take a bath, while I make sure your daughter is asleep. Tomorrow, you don't work if you don't want to. Next week, we discuss your actual career goals, instead of your current necessity job. Junho. And eventually, he continues, voice dropping to something intimate and dangerous, we plan an engagement party that makes very clear to every person in this city exactly who you are, to me. The car pulls away from the curb, and Ally watches the Corinthian recede in the side mirror. Inside, The socialites are probably still frozen in their seats, processing the demolition of their evening and their egos. Tomorrow, they'll wake up and wonder if it really happened. They'll check their phones for evidence, find Connor's video, and realize that yes, they were publicly eviscerated by someone who could destroy them with a word. But Ally isn't thinking about them anymore. She's thinking about Junho's hand on her wrist, about the careful catalog of her life he recited like scripture, about the fact that he knows her favorite color is green and why she doesn't wear it. She's thinking about the way he said, "Under my protection," like it was both promise and threat. "Your world is complicated," she murmurs against his shoulder. "Yes, dangerous. Extremely. And you're certain you want me in it?" Junho's answer comes in Korean first, then English, like he needs both languages to convey the depth of certainty. "내 세상은 당신 없이는 의미가 없어." My world means nothing without you in it. The city lights blur past, and Ally lets herself believe him. Continuing with Chapter 8 and Chapter 9, fully corrected, unabridged, and without reducing words. 3 days later, the consequences arrive in waves. Ally stands in Junho's penthouse, watching the city from glass walls that make her feel simultaneously exposed and untouchable. Her daughter, Maya, is at school 2nd grade and blissfully unaware that her mother's life has transformed into something from a film she's too young to watch. Junho emerges from his office, phone in hand, expression carefully neutral. Evan Keller submitted his resignation from the Corinthians board this morning. "You didn't." "I did nothing." He shows her the screen, an email, professional and brief, citing personal reasons and future endeavors. "I simply made certain information available to certain people. What they chose to do with it was their decision." The hair splitting would be amusing if it weren't so effective. Junho doesn't destroy directly when indirect methods work better. He creates conditions, arranges circumstances, ensures that consequences arrive wearing the face of natural outcome rather than orchestrated revenge. Connor Ashford's SEC investigation accelerated. He continues. His lawyers are very busy. Madeline checked into a rehabilitation facility in Connecticut. Vivian's family is in emergency financial meetings with their creditors. Each update lands with the weight of lives fundamentally altered. Ally should feel guilty. Instead, she feels something darker satisfaction, laced with recognition that power, when wielded precisely, is its own form of justice. "And the Corinthian itself?" she asks. "Operating as usual. The staff received bonuses, new management training, emphasizing respect and professionalism. Marcus was promoted to floor manager." Junho sets his phone aside, moving to stand behind her, arms encircling her waist. The institution survives. The individuals learn, balance restored. Ally leans back against him, watching their reflection in the glass, 2 figures, distinct but merging, his chin resting on her head, her hands covering his, where they rest against her stomach. They look like a photograph from someone else's life, someone who belongs in penthouses and designer clothes and the kind of romance that comes with bodyguards. "I gave my notice," she says quietly. "I know. I received the paperwork." "You're my employer?" "Technically. Also technically, your landlord, your daughter's scholarship fund administrator, and the reason your car's windshield was mysteriously repaired yesterday." She turns in his arms, searching his face for signs of guilt or manipulation, finds only patient affection and the particular pride of someone who's pleased with their own planning. "You can't just reorganize my entire life." "I can't," he agrees readily, "which is why every change required your signature, your approval, your choice. I create opportunities, Ally. You decide whether to take them. End, Ally. End." It's true. The scholarship paperwork for Maya's new private school required her initials on every page. The apartment lease in a better neighborhood had her name first, his as guarantor only. The car repair came with an invoice and a note explaining that the shop owed him a favor, her acceptance optional. Junho doesn't rescue. He empowers. The distinction matters more than she can articulate. The engagement party, she says, changing subjects to safer ground. You were serious about that? Extremely. His hand finds the small box in his pocket. He's been carrying it for weeks, waiting for the right moment. Though traditionally, the proposal comes first. Ally's heart performs gymnastics. Junho, I'm not asking today. He keeps the box pocketed, keeps his hands on her waist, keeps the moment from escalating beyond what she can handle. But I am telling you my intentions. When you're ready, when we're ready, I want the world to know you're mine. Not as possession, but as partnership. Your world will have opinions about me. My world has opinions about everything. He dismisses entire hierarchies with a shrug. Most of those opinions are purchased, performed, or based on information I allow them to have. The only opinion that matters is yours. Through the glass, the city sprawls endless and indifferent. Somewhere down there, people are living normal lives, commuting, working, surviving. Ally used to be one of them, invisible in her normalcy, just another face in the crowd, trying to keep her head above water. Now she stands in a penthouse with a man whose name makes dangerous people careful, discussing engagement parties and the systematic dismantling of people who disrespected her. I need time, she says finally, to adjust, to figure out who I am in this version of my life. Take all the time you need. Junho's kiss lands soft on her temple. I'm not going anywhere, and neither, for the record, are my intentions. The promise settles warm in her chest, and Ally realizes she's stopped performing, stopped bracing for impact, stopped waiting for the world to remind her of her place. Maybe, she thinks, this is what power actually feels like, not the ability to destroy, but the freedom to simply be. The atelier smells like possibility. Fabric cascades from every surface, silk and satin, tulle and taffeta, colors that exist somewhere between dream and memory. Ally stands in the center of the space, while Madame Chen circles her with the focus of a sculptor approaching marble. She needs something that announces, Junho says from his position by the window, voice carrying the particular authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed, but doesn't apologize. I understand. Madame Chen's hands hover near Ally's shoulders, not touching yet, measuring with eyes that have dressed royalty and celebrities and people whose names require discretion. She needs armor disguised as art. The description lands perfectly. They've been here 2 hours already, discussing silhouettes and statements, what the dress should say before Ally opens her mouth. Junho insisted on this, not buying her a dress, but creating one. The distinction between being dressed and choosing one's presentation matters in ways Ally is still learning to appreciate. What do you want? Madame Chen asks, addressing Ally directly for the first time. Not what you think you should want. What calls to you? Ally closes her eyes, searching for an answer that isn't borrowed from magazines or influenced by expectations. She thinks about the lounge, about Madeline's designer perfection and Vivian's inherited elegance, about how their beauty felt like weapons designed to exclude. I want something they wouldn't expect, she says finally, something that doesn't try to be them. Good. Madame Chen smiles, like Ally has passed a test. Authenticity is always more striking than imitation. The next 3 hours dissolve into fabric against skin, sketches refined, possibilities narrowed. Ally discovers she has opinions, strong ones, about necklines and hem lengths, about how much skin to reveal and where. She wants something that honors her body without apologizing for it, that suggests power without performing it. Junho watches from his chair, occasionally offering input but mostly observing. His expression carries satisfaction that goes beyond aesthetics. He's watching her claim space, make decisions, exist without diminishment. The color, Madame Chen muses, draping forest green silk across Ally's shoulder. This speaks to you, yes? Ally stares at her reflection. The green catches light like secrets, deep and rich, and utterly unlike the safe neutrals she's worn for years. It's the color she told Junho she loved, the shade she never permitted herself because service industry practicality demanded invisibility. Yes, she breathes. Then green it is. Madame Chen begins pinning, her hands moving with the confidence of someone who spent decades translating vision into reality, with gold accents here and here. Structure at the shoulders, you carry tension there, we'll give it architecture. Flow at the hem, movement that suggests you're not meant to stand still. The dress takes shape through their collaboration, Alai's instincts, Madame Chen's expertise, Junho's occasional observation about what makes Alai's face light up. It's not a transaction, but a creation. And Ally realizes this is what money can buy when wielded thoughtfully. Not objects, but experiences. Not possession, but participation in one's own transformation. 6 weeks later, the engagement party. Ally descends the stairs in her forest green creation, and the room performs an actual, literal pause. Conversation stops mid-sentence. Champagne glasses freeze halfway to lips. Even the string quartet misses a note before recovering. Junho waits at the bottom, devastating in a tuxedo that probably costs more than her first car, and his expression when he sees her is worth every moment of doubt that preceded this. Sumi taker kata, he murmurs when she reaches him, switching to Korean for intimacy. Breathtaking. That's the dress talking. No. His hand finds hers, lifting it to his lips. That's you, finally dressed in a way that matches who you've always been. The party unfolds around them, colleagues and connections, allies and observers, people whose presence serves purposes Ally is learning to decode. She recognizes faces from society pages, business news, the occasional tabloid. They study her with curiosity that lacks the contempt she's grown accustomed to, seeing not a waitress in borrowed elegance, but someone who belongs in Junho's orbit. Marcus appears at some point, promoted and polished, pressing her hand with genuine warmth. You look incredible. I feel like I'm playing dress-up. You're not. He glances at Junho across the room, deep in conversation with men whose handshakes move markets. You're just finally playing in the right league. Later, in a quiet moment on the terrace, Junho produces the small box he's been carrying for months. The ring inside catches moonlight and city glow, a deep green emerald surrounded by diamonds that seem almost unnecessary next to the center stone's intensity. I'm still asking, he says, not commanding, not expecting, asking. Quote, Ally looks at the ring, at the man holding it, at the party inside, where people treat her with respect that yesterday felt impossible. She thinks about the lounge, about Evan's grip on her wrist, about the moment she decided to stop shrinking. Yes, she says, and watches Junho's careful composure crack into something radiant. The ring slides on perfectly. Of course it does. He's had her measurements for weeks. Inside the band, she'll later discover an engraving in Korean and English. Ne se sang, my world. They return to the party as an engaged couple, and the announcement ripples through the room like a stone through still water. Toasts are offered. Congratulations, flow. Cameras flash, capturing the moment for society pages that will run headlines about the mysterious woman who captured Junho Park's notoriously guarded heart. But Ally isn't thinking about headlines or society or the complex world she's stepping into. She's thinking about her daughter, asleep upstairs with a nanny she trusts, dreaming uncomplicated dreams. She's thinking about the dress she created, the ring on her finger, the man whose hand hasn't left hers all evening. She's thinking that power, real power, isn't about destroying others or climbing hierarchies. It's about reclaiming yourself, piece by piece, until the person you are matches the person you've always been beneath the performance. The city glitters beyond the terrace, infinite and indifferent as always. But Ally Monroe, soon to be Ally Park, no longer needs its approval. She has her own world now, and it's exactly the right size.